We're at 12 o'clock. We've got 11 people who have shown up. Why don't we go ahead and get going just to respect everybody's time, and we'll make sure that anybody who comes on later on that they'll be able to jump right in there too. I'd like to thank you all for joining us today, joining SCORE Maine, Central Maine, and welcome to our webinar on logos from the ground up. I want to remind you that SCORE is a resource partner of the Small Business Administration, and we help clients at all stages of the business cycle from pre-start, that is startup, to exit to help you sell your business. I'd like to thank particularly our LA Metro Chamber. You can see Katie Palmer down there. Thank you very much, Katie, for sponsoring us, and also for the Kennebec Valley Chamber up in Augusta. We really do appreciate our relationship with you. We look forward to responding to your questions as they arise. And when you do have a question, we'll be going over that as Ali has that in her slides as well. And we want to ask you to, of course, mute your microphone when done asking a question. And those whose microphones are still live, I'll go ahead and I'll mute those as well there too. For our presenter, I'd like to introduce Ali Ulrich, a friend and colleague here at SCORE. Ali has been a SCORE volunteer for 6 years now. And Ali, I'm not going to shortchange you. I'm going to let you go ahead and finish introducing yourself, and I will go ahead and give you the floor.
Awesome. Thanks, John. And thanks, Katie, for having me. Everybody, thanks for coming. Welcome to Logos from the Ground Up. I think as, entrepreneurs, when you're starting a new business, there's so much to think about, and establishing a strong brand identity is such an important part of that starting a new business process. And the logo is kind of the centerpiece of your brand identity, and it's going to inform a lot of other things that you do. And so I always like people to sort of start here. Well, almost start here. We'll get there. And this presentation isn't just for people who want to design their own logo. This presentation is for people who don't know anything about designing logos and want to work with the designer, but don't know how to talk to them. So there is information for people at every level of the logo design process. And hopefully this will set you all up for success in your logo journey. So workshop logistics, John mentioned that I was going to talk about those. So microphones on mute, ask questions anytime via the chat. John will shout out when there's a question. It's not always super apparent to me when someone has put something into the chat when I'm presenting. So John will shout out when it's time for me to stop. But please, we're a relatively small group, and feel free to bump in anytime you have a question. I will do my best to leave time at the end for Q&A, but I also can run over a few minutes if we have the time for that. I'm not sure if we do. And also, thank you to the Lewiston, Auburn, and Kennebec Valley Chambers. I do live in Portland, but I am from Augusta, so Central Maine represent. This is me with a very different haircut, looking fancier than I actually am. I am the demand generation manager for a biotech company called Envirologics in Portland. And demand generation is all about the tactical things that we do to make new leads for our sales team. So all of the marketing and advertising and social media and brand stuff, all of that stuff fits under my umbrella here at Envirologics. And I love all of it. And I am a marketing subject matter expert. And like John said, I've been with SCORE for 6 years. I'm used to doing this presentation in person. So I'm going to try to do a little bit of a quick poll here. I'm not 100% positive that I'll be able to see if people raise their hand or not, but there should be a little raise your hand feature in the toolbar. And I'm curious to know if there isn't a raise your hand feature, or if it's not working out, feel free to just put it in the chat where people are in their logo journey. Usually people who take this workshop are either haven't gotten started, don't know where to start, or they got started the wrong way and then they want to redo what they've done. They want to fix an existing logo. So I'm just curious to know let's see, John, is there a raise your hand feature? I can't see it in my toolbar.
There is a raise hand feature. I just initiated that myself.
Great.
Others can do that too. I don't know. Okay, we have Kimberly Goldrup. She just raised her hand.
All right, so I want people to raise your hand if you're just getting started and you don't know where to start. All right, we got 3. So we got 3, 4. So I see a few folks. And then if you could put your hands down, raise your hand if you have a logo, but you don't like it and you want to start over. All right. Seeing a few of those as well. So this workshop, like I said, will hopefully meet all of your needs, but it's always interesting for me to know kind of where people are in space when it comes to logo design. So without further ado, let's dig in. This is Green Banana, which is a fake company that I created to use as an example throughout this presentation. Sometimes I will pick on real logos, but most of the time I don't. But this will give us sort of an example of like what the parts of the logo are that we're going to talk about and kind of how to do it the right way and how to do it the wrong way. So look out for Green Banana as we go through this presentation. But the first thing we're going to do is talk about the parts of the logo so that as we're going through and I'm talking about these different aspects of logos, you'll know sort of what I'm talking about. The first thing is the word mark. So this thing that says Green Banana, that's the word mark. This banana over here, that's the icon. And Fresh Picked Marketing right here underneath in the blue, that's the tagline. And so here's just a slide that kind of goes through what those things are. So the icon, that was that green banana, is a simplified visual representation of your business, of your brand. And we've got the apple and the Nike swoosh over here on the left. If your business is well known enough, eventually, even if you started out spelling out the name of your business, like both of these can stand alone on their own. So like if your brand has the strength to just be known as a picture, like that is the peak of logo design, where you can just go by the icon and everyone knows exactly who that is. Starting a brand new business, you probably aren't there where you can go with just the icon, but it is a nice sort of additional graphic element that you can use in lots of different ways. Like if you have an app or if you have a social media platform, a lot of times you're given a little bit of space where you can stick just a single kind of square orientation of something. That's a great place to put an icon, and making an icon as part of your logo can make it more flexible. Then we've got the word mark. This is kind of the bread and butter of most logos, and it's really just the name of your business written out in a distinctive type-only treatment. Sometimes, like you see with Subway over here on the right, is that it's like a type-only treatment, but it's a little fancy. Like it's not just a font that they picked and wrote out the word, they've made it into kind of almost like an icon and a word mark had a baby, that type treatment is so distinctive. So almost all logos have word marks, and they often stand alone without an icon or a tagline. And then the tagline is kind of the bonus. It's a short group of words that gives a little bit more information about your company. The nice thing about taglines is that they can change. You don't frequently see them on their own, but you know, McDonald's wasn't always "I'm loving it." I don't remember when that came in, sometime in the early 2000s. They may even have a different tagline now, but these just little extra words that really help people understand what your business is about, and give you, again, a little bit more flexibility. So I think a very important thing to mention here, and something actually John and I were talking about before this workshop started, was like where your logo goes. I've been a SCORE mentor now for 6 years, and one of the things that I noticed when I first started working with clients was that they were, 5 steps down the line with their marketing. They're like, and I want to put a newspaper ad, and here's my Facebook, but they hadn't really given any thought to their brand identity as a whole. They're like, oh, I'm designing a website, so I need a logo now. But you actually really should start with a logo at the very beginning, because that logo is going to be on everything. Maybe it feels small now, but the idea is as your business grows, there'll be more opportunities to put your logo on more things, and starting out your business with a really strong, really clear point of view and really like together logo design is just going to make things so much easier every time you add a new layer of marketing or advertising into your overall business plan. So I really like this little collage of Chobani. It's on the uniforms, it's on the business cards, it's on the website, it's on the tote bags, it's on the brochures, it's on the everything. Company vehicles, you know, your logo might be on a business card or it might be on the side of a bus. And making logo that is flexible, like a workhorse that can do all of these things and all of these things well, that's really the art of what we're talking about today. So when do I need a logo? I said at the very beginning, kind of as soon as possible, like right at the beginning, but that's kind of a caveat that there are a couple of things that you need to do first. And the very first thing you need to do is have a name for your business. And make sure that that name is appropriate for your industry. It's different enough from your direct competition. At SCORE, we see a lot of regional businesses. And so like if you name your business something that a similar business down the street is also named, you're going to create a lot of confusion with your potential customers. So making sure that you have a good solid name that sort of says clearly what you do, isn't trademarked by someone else. We'll talk a little bit more about trademarks at the very, very end of this presentation, but there are trademark searches that you can do to make sure that there isn't somebody else already using that name in their logo. And then I think this one is actually objectively the most important one is, can you get a good domain name? In this day and age, almost every business needs a website, and having a domain name that's short and snappy, and that again makes sense for your industry and your business, easy to spell, easy to remember, those are all really important. And you can just jump onto GoDaddy.com or whatever domain service you like and just start plugging in potential domains for your business name that you think are good. And it'll tell you if somebody else already owns those. So making sure that your name is not just there, but it's strong before you get started with the logo is sort of step one. Step zero. So let's call getting a name for your business is step zero. And then step one is understanding your business. And we talk a lot about the value proposition at SCORE in terms of like business identity and what you do and what you're good at and what makes you different. Like, what is it that makes your business viable, basically? Like, why will people want to use your business? And so understanding kind of what it is that you do, how you do it, what makes you different, who your customers are, what are your values as a company, and kind of what's the personality of your company? Are you very conservative? Are you more fun and goofy? And we'll talk more about each of those things a little bit more as we go along, but really knowing who your business is to make sure that the logo and the branding you're about to design reflect all of these things about your business is really important. And so making sure that you're not jumping into, I have a business idea, to I'm doing business, without really taking the time to sort of thoughtfully establish your brand and who you are. And so then I would say this is step two. So like, you got a name, you know who you are, and then you want to know who everyone else is. Basically, do some research. I love this slide because it really shows that like a lot of people have the same idea. And sometimes that's okay if, your tanning salon is in another state from another tanning salon. But this slide really illustrates, these are just logos that showed up on Google on the first page when I looked for boxing gym, painting business, tanning salon, and cupcake business. So like I Googled these things and all of these were logos that showed up on that first page of Google. And what you'll notice is that a lot of these types of businesses use the same language. You're a tanning salon, so of course we want a sun motif. I don't know why every cupcake bakery is pink and brown, but apparently that's the thing. The boxing gyms kind of have this like old school kind of, crest or stamp logo. Your painting companies have this sort of rainbow motif. And knowing what other people are doing in your industry, but also like knowing what they're doing so you can look like your industry, but also not look so much like your industry that, again, you're getting confused with other people, especially in the same region. Regionality is so important when it comes to logo design. Very few of us will start a business that will become an international success where we have to worry about the international stage of, where we're selling. But, if you have a cupcake bakery in your hometown, and your logo is pink and brown and has a cupcake on it, and so is small cakes across the street, that's a problem. So like being appealing to your market while not getting confused with others is really the sort of sweet spot that we're going to try to hit on. And so I'm going to tell you this 1,000 times during this presentation, Google, Google, Google. Get in there, see who else is out there, see what they're doing, see what ideas are overused, and try to find a space for yourself that is unique. All right, so now we've done the steps 0 through 2. We kind of figure out who we are. We know where we are in space, and we feel very ready to design our logo. And I think this slide is going to be an important one for a lot of you because most people are not qualified to design their own logo. Like I know a lot of people who are artists who are not qualified to design a logo. Designing a logo is a very, very specific skill that not every artist has, especially a fine artist. A graphic designer who is trained in logo design is going to be your best bet. But this is going to kind of give you the range of options for all price ranges, as well as a couple watch outs about like, maybe don't do it this way. And we're going to start at the top. This is what I call the cucumber water section. The best thing that you can do as you're starting a new business and you want a logo is to hire a branding agency. Might and Main and Pulp and Wire are a couple of local Portland branding agencies that I really love who do beautiful work. They're also very expensive. And I call it the cucumber water section because they'll bring you into their gorgeous downtown office. They'll give you a cucumber water. They'll talk to you about your thoughts and feelings, and then they'll go and they'll do all the work. They'll give you lots of personal attention. They'll give you lots of iterations of designs. They'll let you talk back and forth about your ideas until you get it just right. And getting it just right in this way is both very easy because there's not much you have to do other than communicate sort of your ideas and your feedback, but it's also incredibly expensive. If you have those funds and it feels like you have the justification to spend them on a logo design, I cannot recommend this option enough. You will get a beautiful product and it'll be as easy as this process can possibly be. That said, a lot of people starting new businesses don't have cucumber water money, and that's fine too. There are lots and lots of other options, but it does get a little bit trickier the further we go down the list. So the next best thing that you can do is to hire a freelance graphic designer. Again, trained designer. So an agency has a system of designers and a whole situation where you get, like I said, like a whole salon treatment, basically. A freelance graphic designer is just like a single person that you hire from the internet or from your community. Upwork and Fiverr are a couple of online freelance design resources. You can put an ad on Craigslist, you can do all kinds of things, but you can ask for recommendations like, hey, Facebook, does anybody know a local graphic designer who's currently looking for work who would help me with the logo? So a freelance graphic designer is going to have all of the tools that you need. So they're going to be able to give you a good quality logo. You're going to be paying them by the hour probably versus an agency where it's going to be like it'll cost you $2,500 to design this logo or this brand identity for you. A freelance graphic designer, it's like $50 to $100 an hour. And so that means every time you want another round of design or every time you want, changes, then another $50 racks up. It'll usually be cheaper, but it'll also be a little bit more manual. You might have to chase after your graphic designer if they're not being fast enough. It's a little bit more work. I will also say that that especially for services like Fiverr, who advertise sort of like $5 logos. You do get what you pay for. You know, they'll make you a logo, but it'll probably be just a stock image and your name in a font that you choose or that they choose. Other people might be having the same logo from them. You won't get the opportunity to go back and forth. You may not get all the files that you need. The less you pay, the sort of lower quality your product tends to be. But you will, if you find the right graphic designer, you still can get a really great result for less money than the full agency experience. Then here's number 3, which is crowdsourcing. There are websites called 99 Designs and Design Crowd. There may be more, but basically what you do is you write a little brief about what you want for your design and you put it up on one of these websites, and whichever designers are interested submit a design. The prize for the design is you pay them $250 or $500 for their final logo and files of the one that you like best. The higher the amount of money you offer, the better, the more submissions you're going to get, which is sort of the tricky part about here. But one of the things that can be nice about crowdsourcing is that you get to see a bunch of different interpretations of your design idea. The bad news is that maybe none of them are good. And I think 99 Designs, I know you don't have to choose a winner if you don't like any of the designs or if nobody submits, but you know, there are pros and cons to the crowdsourcing, but it is a way that you can do it for relatively inexpensively and get to see a couple different ideas of your designs. And they do give you a little bit of opportunity to give feedback. But again, you're not getting that whole work it till it's done, you know, work it until it's perfect, until you're happy with it. You might get a couple iterations and then you're on your way. This one, so now that we're getting it, so 1, 2, and 3 are the options that I recommend the most. Options 4, 5, and 6 are the ones that I recommend the least. Logo generator websites, I know Squarespace has one built into their website platform. It'll give you some icons, it'll give you some fonts, it lets you kind of drag and drop things a little bit, and ta-da, it's a logo. I made this green banana logo that I've pictured over here on the right with the Squarespace logo generator. It's okay. It'll do. It's uninspired. Lots of people might be using the same fonts and the same graphics that are offered in these generators. But if you're really in a pinch and you don't have the money to hire a designer, a logo generator can sort of get the job done. But again, you lose some of that. You lose some of that real like creativity. The next one is DIY. But this is DIY with the correct programs. We're going to talk a lot more about vector graphics and why they're important later in the presentation. But if you have Adobe Illustrator, Vector and Vecteezy are 2 other vector graphics generating software. So doing it yourself with the right software will get you the right files. But if you don't have the right training, like I said, is very specific, then you might not end up with a great product. And there's a logo over here that we'll pick on later. But even if you're using the right files, if you don't have the skills, I wouldn't recommend it. And if you do have the skills, you're probably not taking this workshop, but there is good stuff in here, even if you do. And last but not least, our worst option is Cousin Amy with Microsoft Word. There are 2 things in here that you should watch out for. The first and foremost is Cousin Amy. I think that working with a family member, unless that family member is a trained graphic designer with whom you have a positive relationship, like your cousin Amy, who just graduated from high school and was real great at art, or like really great with Canva, which we'll talk about in a second, which is not a logo design program. Like dealing with family in general is tricky and can be really fraught when it comes to something like this. I have seen relationships soured over a bad graphic design project with a family member that went off the rails. The other thing is, in addition to like the difficulty of your family member, Microsoft Word is not now, nor has it ever been, a logo design program. You cannot design your logo in Microsoft Word. Please do not design your logo in Microsoft Word. Again, we'll talk a lot more about why that is, but at the end of the day, Microsoft Word isn't it. There's a whole lot of problems that are going to come along with it if you try. Please do not Please do not do that.
And Allie, we have one question from one of our participants is pertaining to any research on the ROI of any of these design and branding fees, possibly for each spent on whatever in return. Is there anything that has a higher ROI or anything that you can point to?
I mean, I think that you can get as good a product from a freelance graphic designer as you could from a branding agency. But have you ever seen that it's like fast, cheap, and good? Pick two.
You get two. That's right.
I think that with a branding agency, you'll get a good quality logo and an easy experience. With the freelance graphic designer, you'll probably get a good quality logo and you might have an easy experience, but it's going to be more work. And every level we go down, it's sort of like a level of complication or a level of degradation of quality. I don't have a specific statistic that says that if you pay $5,000 to a brand management firm that your business is going to take right off. A good logo design is the beginning of a good brand identity, but it's not going to do all of the heavy lifting. It's just a good place to start.
And Allie, we have one more question. What do you think about using AI? I wonder if that's something you'll get to later on in the presentation.
I have complicated feelings about AI. As an artist, I have complicated feelings about, excuse me, about AI, because what AI does is they feed other people's art. They feed existing digital art into a computer so that it can spit out computer generated art. But all of that art comes from the artwork of people, real people who made that art and who rely upon that art to make their living. So when you're using an AI generator to make a logo, it's sort of stealing in a way. It's sort of obsoleting the people who make the logos and have the real creativity, and it's doing it on the backs of their prior work. So like, I have personally very complicated feelings about AI. I also, again, like, I feel like you lose a little bit of the soul of the artwork in AI. But just kind of like down here with logo generator websites in the middle, sometimes you got to do what you got to do. And sometimes using AI can be a good tool for like inspiring yourself. So like maybe you put some ideas about, yoga studio, purple, natural, and you put those words into an AI generator and it starts to pop stuff out. But maybe you can take those outputs and bring them to a real designer and then work on something that's more unique and that's more real, and also make sure that a designer gets paid for doing real work. You're never going to hear me be like, yeah, AI is the answer, because I don't think it is. But I do think that it can be a useful tool in getting inspired to make a logo with a real designer. I don't know if that's the answer that you want. I have controversial opinions on AI.
Right. And there's, sorry to follow up, no specific number for each dollar spent in logo creation results in X number for sales. I think you've answered that, is that there's really no hard and fast.
No, and there are lots of businesses that start out with a really great logo and who invest a lot into brand identity that then don't survive. Like I said, the logo doesn't do all of the work, and I don't have a specific statistic, and I wish I did. And I do think that as a business with limited funds at the beginning, as much as it would be great to be like, yeah, spend $5,000 on a brand identity package, like that might not be the best idea. Like it might be better for you to put that money into, doing sort of marketing and advertising stuff, or establishing a physical business space, or hiring a person to help. Like, how you spend your startup funds as a new business is a really delicate and personal thing. And I would be remiss if I was like, yeah, go spend it all on branding, because even if it would be a good idea, it still might not work.
Great. Thank you, Allie.
You're welcome. All right, moving along. So now it's like, can we design my logo already? And yes, the answer is now. And really, this is just a slide that's about kind of coming up with some ideas. like I said, AI might be a place that you look for ideas. You might look around on the internet for other logos that you like, and not even just logos that are like that page that I showed you at the beginning, where it's like tanning logos, just logos in general that inspire you. This step is really there to help you. If you're not going to design your own logo, and you're probably not, this step is here to help you communicate your ideas to a designer. I think a lot of people get really literal when it comes to logo design, whether it's like literal based on the words of the name of the business or what the business does, or they're trying to just like have the business do too much. And I urge you all to think back to the swoosh, think back to the apple, like the simplicity, the idea of the essence of what you do and what your business is really sort of where your logo needs to be. It doesn't have to be literal, although I really love the FedEx and the Zippo logos down here. The Zippo one, because it is a little bit literal, but it does it with a very light touch. And it's very clever and cute. And it's, again, it says what it needs to say. Like the Z looks like a lighter and here's the flame. Like that's a really elegant piece of graphic design that says a lot without being overcomplicated. The FedEx logo, I always bring up every time I do this, because if you look between the E and the X, there's an arrow in there. And I was too old before I realized that there is this arrow in there, which is just like this little hidden piece of clever, like, you know, FedEx, they're all about moving things. And so there's a little arrow in there to kind of subconsciously remind you that it's about movement. So get out your pen and paper, get out your crayons, think about what the essence of your business is. Think about what kind of things symbolize what your business is about, and just jot some stuff down. A good designer will help guide you from being too literal or being too complicated into a place where you can take all of your essences that you sketched out in your crayons and translate them into something that's really simple and meaningful. All right, so this whole next section is all about design sort of mistakes and watch-outs, and a little bit of information that will help you better speak to someone about how to make a good logo. Or if you're doing it yourself, we'll give you some clear guidelines as to where to start. This, I always say, is the most important slide in this presentation, which is logo design is a very specific, very specialized thing. And one of the ways to keep yourself from making the biggest mistakes in logo design is to start in black and white. It can be really tempting to be like, oh, my brand is all about color. I want to do color. I want this to be color, and I want these shapes, and I like this. And, you know, you're going to see a little bit further into the presentation, kind of like how your logo gets used and how having a really overcomplicated logo is going to shoot you in the foot over and over and over again. And some of you who raised your hands about having a logo that you don't like, that you're trying to redo, may have already fallen into some of these traps. Using photography. Photography is great. Use photography with your brand. Do not use photography in your logo. Using text effects like drop shadows or like gradients or textures. The more complicated your logo is, the harder it is to reproduce. And again, just like making things really complicated, having lots of extra elements. Again, think back to that swoosh. It is the simplest, a single stroke, and it says so much, and it's so easy to reproduce, whether you're putting it really small or on the side of a Mack truck, and it says all it needs to say. And so when you're approaching your own logo design, doing it in black and white will force you to not get stuck in some of these traps where you're kind of making things too complicated and making your logo less useful. So the next thing you want to do is choose a font. So here is just a quick graphic, and these are more graphics to spend time with the presentation after, you know, at the end when they send it to you, is just thinking about font options for how you want to write that word mark, how you want to write the name of your business in your logo. I think it's really important to say that there's way more fonts in the world than what comes stock on your laptop. There are hundreds and thousands, probably millions of fonts online that you can that you can download and try, download and buy. If you're going to use a font that you downloaded in your logo, a lot of times you can download like a sample version that's like not for commercial use. So if you're putting it in your logo and using it on your marketing materials, make sure that you, again, pay that designer. Do not forget to buy the license. They may, if they find you using their font in commerce online and you haven't paid for it, they might come after you legally, and they have the ability to do so. You can pay a designer to make you a custom font. Like I like this bottom corner here, display. These are fonts that are like sort of decorative, fun, funky fonts. And again, we'll look at a few more of these, but you could have a designer write out the word mark for your font in a font that's just for you. I will, however, say that the watch out here is you can only choose a couple fonts. You know, more than 2 fonts in a logo is too many. And I think if we go back to my green banana is one font, and then my tagline is another font, but the tagline isn't always there in every version of the font. So one font is good. Make sure that you're really thinking through a decision if you decide to add more. But these are just a little block that's like different types of fonts that you can consider. And in choosing fonts, again, here's another graphic for later, like what fonts evoke your attitude and values. I like this graphic a lot because, you know, it shows sort of fonts that evoke things that are more like emotional or feeling, you know, strength. You've got this loopy sort of scripty wedding fonts that are sort of more creative. You've these serif fonts. The serifs are just these little feet that are on the tops and bottoms of the letters. And that's very like traditional, sort of more conservative, whereas the sans serif fonts, so the ones that don't have those little feet, tend to be more like techy and clean and modern. And so thinking about your brand and choosing fonts that make sense with your brand. Again, not just what makes sense for your brand, but maybe what makes sense for your industry. These are sort of how different fonts are used across different types of industry. You know, you've got Lego and Disney over here in the display font section, Metallica, you know, being fun, being kind of like custom, special, standing out. And then you've got over here on the other side, you know, your traditional serif fonts, your Volvo, your Wikipedia, and then some other stuff in the middle. So just really thinking through when you're choosing a font to make sure that it's the right fit for your business. And then this is just my goofy watch out slide. There are a bunch of fonts that are kind of considered punchlines. I'm sure many of you have heard jokes made about Comic Sans here in the middle, which is this like old timey comic book font that's pretty cheesy and poorly looked upon. But a lot of these fonts that you see here are kind of old system fonts, like fonts that came with your computer 20 years ago. And they've gotten a bit of a bad rap. I'm not saying never use these fonts if it makes sense, but I will say that they carry a little bit of weight with them. People will kind of give you the stink eye if they see these fonts sometimes and they're not used in a way that's sort of fresh or a way that makes sense. So before you commit to Comic Sans or Hobo, really think it through. People will judge you. And so the third part of the equation is choosing color. So we said start in black and white. That doesn't mean don't have a color logo. It just means staying in black and white keeps you from overdoing it with the details. So now you've got a beautiful, strong black and white logo. Now you can apply color. And again, see how all of these logos over here on the right are like cool, interesting shapes, but they're also cool, interesting shapes that can read when you take the color away. So this is a great chart that just sort of talks about the things that the emotions and values, the vibes, let's say, that different colors evoke. So thinking about your brand and who you are. You did that value proposition. You really thought through the personality of your brand, and you're like, yeah, we're definitely a cheerful, fun, friendly yellow kind of company. And so you want to feature yellow prominently in your logo. These are not 100% of the time. These are not the only associations with these colors. And you may have a specific reason that a specific color that that is outside of this box is something that you want to use. And that's fine. These are just kind of guidelines. This is really just a watch out to like think about color and use it in a meaningful way. Just because you love purple doesn't mean your logo should be purple unless it makes sense for your business that the logo is purple. It can be really hard in the logo design process and the brand design process to divorce like your own personal likes from what's best for your brand and your business. And so that's just a little bit of a watch out to just because you love purple does not mean that your whole logo and world has to be purple. And in fact, if it doesn't make sense, it might put people off. If your customer doesn't love purple, that's a problem. Again, this is just another fun slide that's kind of like industry and color. A lot of people out there using blue, especially in kind of like more conservative industries like technology and healthcare and banking. But again, this is not the most comprehensive industry color slide, but I think when you're out there in the world Googling what kinds of things people in your industry are doing logo-wise, those colors that are key to that industry will shine through. Thinking about your customer when you think about color, as I said before, also really important. Again, this is not a fully comprehensive color wheel. It's really just like the idea of the associations. You know, as much as I don't love to flog gender norms, there are sort of more feminine and more masculine colors that those two groups of people relate to. And so making sure that like you're paying attention to that, or maybe you're bucking that tradition in a way that is really smart and fresh, like, but thinking about it is really the goal of the slide. So this is the logo that I showed earlier in tiny format. And sometimes if I have a small enough group on site, I do like a live what went wrong, but I know we don't have a ton of time. So I'm going to zip through and just be like, this is a logo that I found online. I don't know who or what it belongs to. I couldn't find a business associated with it, but I will say that this is an example of doing everything incorrectly. There are, I think, 3 different fonts here. There is a photograph, there are gradients, there are drop shadows, there is embossing, there are 58 colors. It is not easily reproduced in black and white. So if you're ever like stuck and you're worried that you're doing the wrong thing, look at this logo on this slide and be like, am I doing any of these things? And it can be a good, preventative visual. All right, so we've figured out the colors and the fonts. We figured out who's going to make it. We figured out what our business is all about. And then it's time to test it out. So like if you think your logo is done, maybe it is, but maybe it's not. These are some check boxes that you can go through to double, triple make sure that your logo is ready to fly. And the first one is, does it scale? You want to be able to put it on a business card and put it on a Mack truck. And part of that is going to be the file type, which we'll talk about in a second. But part of that is also just going to be like the orientation of your logo and the crispness of your logo. You can see even on the side of the Mack truck, this fresh picked marketing in the gradient at the top in the bad logo truck is really hard to read. So just like making sure that your logo is really crisp and that you have it able to be read and understood really small and really big. The next thing is it readable on top of light and dark backgrounds and photographs? So, you know, I think a lot of times we think about our logo in like full color on a white background. And that's kind of like, oh, our logo is always going to be in full color on a white background. And that's totally not true. Sometimes your logo will need to be on a dark background. Sometimes your logo will need to be on top of a photo. Sometimes your logo will need to be in black and white instead of color, and you need to make sure that you have flexible options for all of these. So what you see here in the bad green banana logo at the bottom is that it's, you know, on the black, you can see this kind of shadow that's on this photograph of these bananas instead of this graphic icon of a banana that's making it look weird and hard to read. And then on top of the photo over here on the right, there's like this see-through star thing, and it's weird and it's making it hard to read. And again, you can see the weird shadow. So making sure that you have flexible versions of your logo in different colors, different configurations to fit different scenarios is really important. And that black and white logo, that single color logo that you're going to start with, is going to be so much easier. It's like, I got a white version, I got a black version, I got a color version, and those should be able to like be in any scenario that you need. Can you screen print it or embroider it on clothing or other swag? This, I think, is something that people really forget about until they're like trying to order t-shirts for their team. This top logo here, this top green banana logo, the bad one, the more detail something has, the less easy it is to screen print. And this is so detailed that you cannot traditionally screen print this on a t-shirt. You just can't. This all black green banana logo, however, looks fantastic screen printed on a t-shirt. The graphics in the middle are like embroidery samples. Again, a single color you can embroider, but as soon as you get all this detail and you're trying to reproduce a photograph, the embroidery gets really muddy and sometimes just can't even be done. So thinking about where you might want to put your logo in the future, remember that Chobani slide at the beginning, pretty important step. This is a very important distinction, and I'm not going to spend too much time on it, but what I will say is that file type matters. And there's two kinds of files that you're going to need for your logo. One of them is a raster file. It's probably not a word that you've ever heard before, but all it means is that it is an image, a digital image that is made of pixels. So if you take a photo that you found on the internet and you blow it up, what you're going to see is that it's made of tiny pixels. It'll get grainy when it gets bigger. Also, a JPEG, which is a kind of raster image, does not have a transparent background. So like if you have a JPEG of your logo, it'll probably have like a white box around it, which will look weird when you put it on top of a dark background or a photograph. Whereas a PNG, again, another type of raster, that pixel-based image, a PNG can have a transparent background. So when you have your logo made and you get the files for the logo, you should make sure that you have a PNG version of that logo so that you have that transparent background and you can put it on top of stuff and there's not a weird white box. Now, a vector is a image that is made out of, it's made out of math. I'm not really a math person, but what I will say is that there is an equation in the background of a vector image that makes it able to expand infinitely. When we talk about putting something on the side of a bus, if you have a little JPEG of your logo and you expand that to put on the side of a bus, it's going to get real grainy and people aren't going to be able to read it. But if you have a vector version of your logo, which would be, and you can see the file types over here on the left at the bottom, AI stands for Illustrator, EPS stands for, oh God, Encapsulated PostScript. PDFs can do vectors. So different kinds of file types that you're going to want to get from your designer, because sometimes you want to make something really big, or a lot of times like swag vendors will want a vector version because that's what their software that does the embroidery or does the printing wants to have. So there's going to be raster images, your PNG, that you're going to use for your website. And then there's going to be vector images that you're going to use for other stuff. And they're both really important, but I think it's worth just learning the difference as you're going on your logo journey. So know what to ask for. Speaking of knowing what to ask for, something that you should get from your designer when you work on your logo is a style guide. The style guide basically tells you everything that you need to know about your logo. It gives you the sort of primary version of that logo. It gives you the name of the fonts that you use in your logo. It shows the different versions of your logo that you have. Like here on my green banana fake style guide, I've got the black one, I've got the white one, and I've got an all green version. Why not? It also might have different configurations. So like green banana fresh pick marketing, this is the primary logo that we're using most of the time. But at the bottom here, we've got one without the tagline. We've also got one that's more sort of horizontally oriented. So this one actually might be a better one to put on the side of our 18-wheeler because you can, it'll fill up the space better. And also remember at the beginning when we talked about icons, sometimes you just want the icon on like an app or a social media, profile picture for your brand. So having versions of your logo here in different colors and different configurations makes your logo more useful. We also have the color palette over here. And this is just a little bit of notation about what these values mean. So when you're printing something, the printer uses CMYK. It just stands for cyan, magenta, yellow, and black to make the colors in your logo. And there's number values associated with that your designer or maybe your swag vendor might want to know if they're printing something. And so this little style guide gives you the color and how it's made. So then for the internet, the colors are not made with CMYK, they're made with RGB. Like if you ever got real close to an old tube TV when you were a kid, you can see that the TV is made up of tiny red, blue, and green bars. All of those pictures are made from those three colors. So on a screen, there's RGB values. And then there's what are called hex values, which are another digital value for colors, but you don't really need to know what those mean. You just need to know what they are in case you want to communicate them to someone. Hey, this is the color that the ink should be. This is the color that the tote bag should be. And all of that stuff should be encompassed in your style guide. It doesn't have to be fancy and designed like this, but your designer should give you all of this information in one way or other when you're done. And of course, beware of design blindness. I think when you've been looking at the same thing for a really long time, it gets really hard to sort of see what it is anymore. And there are a bajillion hilarious articles. I think I might have linked to some of them in the appendix for this, where there's like accidental, let's call them unfortunate motifs that the thing that was supposed to just be two nice people hugging looks not like two people hugging. And, other people see it, but you don't because you're too close to it. So I always tell people to try their logo out on a couple of people that you trust. The key here is people that you trust. Under no circumstance do I recommend that you put your logo on your Facebook page and be like, hey guys, what do you think? Because you're going to get a lot of feedback that's not helpful, that's based in people's personal opinions. That's not, it's going to make you second guess your design. It's going to make you sad and it's not going to be super helpful. And it might just make you churn more and spend more money trying to get it redesigned. If you give your logo to a couple of people that you really trust their opinion and know will give you constructive feedback, those are the people whose opinions you want. Also, obviously, it goes without saying, don't forget to spell check it. And the hope is that you love it. I hope that you love it at the end. But we'll talk about what happens if you don't in just 1 second. I'm going to zoom past this because I know we're running low on time. Should you trademark? Nah, probably not. You're not doing business on the national stage. You're not investing millions of dollars into a logo. Starting a small local business, it's totally fine to start small, stay small for a while. And maybe as you're picking up steam and your business is growing, thinking about trademarking your logo is important. SCORE has some good resources that I link to here. SCORE has legal resources that you can meet with about this kind of thing if you have some light questions. So lean on SCORE, lean on attorneys. Don't worry too much about trademarking. And last but not least, here's your little checklist of things that you need to do before your logo is right. Know yourself, do your research, be thoughtful, consider hiring a pro if you can, make sure you're using the right tools, keep it simple and elegant, remember the swoosh, test it for versatility to make sure it can be on the side of a bus, get a few unbiased opinions, sorry mom, and get your final files and make sure that you know what those final files need to be. And my very last parting word before I open the floor for questions is just, yes, this is important. know this isn't the only thing that will make your business great. And I think this Starbucks example is a really great example. They started with this logo that was kind of muddy, kind of overcomplicated. And as their business grew over the years, they were able to tailor it and tailor it and tailor it down into what it is today, which is this 2011 version, which again, doesn't even say Starbucks on it, but we don't need to because there's the green, there's the siren, that's Starbucks. And this is kind of the ideal progression. I don't recommend rebranding every time you decide you don't like your logo. Give your brand a chance to build up steam, work on other stuff. And, 5 years, 10 years, refine it a little bit. But, maybe you give yourself one big, like, no, we're starting over from the beginning. But just allowing your brand to be and doing lots of other things to have a great brand, even if your logo isn't exactly what you want, it's still going to be okay. Like, good logos can add polish and credibility to your startup, but good business will always be number one. So Starbucks did it with this weird naked logo back in 1971, and they're still doing fine. So yes, it's important, but don't worry if it's not perfect.
Great.
All
Thank you
right.
very much, Allie. Allie, we had one question that came up that I asked that we just wait until the very end because I think it brings in the whole totality of the presentation. But we have one of our attendees is interested in a tagline for a handyman and landscaping business. But I think you've kind of gone over the basics on this, but would you be able to just give a real quick, concise thing that he should be thinking about on that?
I think with the tagline, it's if you have a tagline at all, and a lot of people starting a business out don't necessarily have a tagline, you want it to add to your logo and not sort of make it overly complicated. So if it's more than a couple of words, like if you're writing a novel, that's too much. But
Right.
you know, 3 to 5 words that really tell people more about your business. Like, what is it it's that value proposition, but in 5 words or less. What is it about your landscaping business that's different and special? So it's like, okay, so here's another landscaping business, but then this tagline should be like, but wait, there's more, is kind of what you're looking for there. I can't come up with a good pithy tagline for you without knowing more about your business and what makes it special. But that's really where you should start with the tagline.
Good. We have one other question here. How do you determine if an icon or a word mark or et cetera is better for certain types of businesses? Are there certain businesses each are better for? Uh, could you even go back to that particular slide?
I could try.
Okay.
Which one do we want to be on? Is it all the way? Whoa, cousin Amy. This one or this one?
Hmm. We are waiting for that respondent. She raised her hand. Um, Carissa, let's see. I'm going to allow you to talk. Go ahead. If you would unmute yourself and speak up. Carissa, we are waiting on you.
That one, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. This is the
Oh,
this is the one, Allie.
Great. So I think that an icon can work for every industry. I will say that I have worked with a lot of like consultants where the name of their business is just like, John Anderson Consulting or something like that. And where the business is maybe a little bit smaller and doesn't really require an icon, and sometimes just a nice consistent type treatment of the name works just fine for a business like that. Depending on the sort of scale of your business, how big do you want it to grow? Like if you're just kind of doing consulting in your part-time, you probably don't need to bother with an icon or a tagline, and just a nice crisp version of your name or the name of your business to slap on your website, slap on your business cards. That can be enough. A business that's sort of a little like as your business gets bigger, or if your expectation is for your business to start small and get bigger over time, I do think that an icon, or at minimum a like very distinctive word mark like the Subway logo here, can be really great for a business if you intend to grow, because it just adds flexibility, it adds sort of graphic appeal, it adds memorability to your brand as a whole.
Great. And Allie, one other question. Are you a freelance logo designer?
I am, I have a, I mean, yes and no, although ultimately I have a very hard policy that I don't do work through SCORE. I think that me being a mentor is its own thing, and sort of me doing work for clients that way gets a little mucky. So, not really.
And,
I also have a full-time job that's pretty demanding these days, so I do less and less freelance work all the time.
and that would be something they just need to do a Google search and find people who may be able to do the work or the type of work that they like to have done.
I do think that especially on a local level, that asking, like crowdsourcing your friends and family to find out if they've ever worked with a graphic designer that they like, or maybe even contacting, like I know that both the University of Southern Maine as well as SMCC have good graphic design programs. Like there may be recent grads that can be recommended by like the career services office at a college. You know, I do think that it can be really nice to work with someone locally that you can meet face to face. That helps, like if you know, pay an anonymous person from Fiverr $100 to make you a logo, sometimes they disappear, sometimes they do crappy work. Having a more personal relationship with the designer definitely can strengthen performance, but it's also a little bit harder to find. But you know, but recommendations from people that you know and trust, or recommendations through like a university or other kind of organization like that, might be a good place to start.
Great. Thank you, Allie. I think that that takes care of all of our questions that we have there. Thank you very much for the responses, and want to thank everybody who is attending today for your attendance. And we'll send you a copy of the slides to review, as well as a link to view the actual recording, and you should receive this. Give us a couple days. We also load this up into our YouTube channel, and I put that in the chat, the YouTube channel link, and a reminder that you will be receiving a copy or a link to this particular presentation. That is for anybody who registered, whether they attended or not. And as a reminder to you, too, is that you'll get a brief online survey from SCORE about this event, and we appreciate your feedback. It's entirely up to you whether or not you'd like to do it, but we do appreciate your feedback. Helps us to get better. And as a reminder, too, SCORE Maine offers free, confidential, one-on-one mentoring, whether you are starting or growing your business. It's very easy to request a meeting with a mentor by visiting score.org and then filling out a brief online form. We are a nonprofit partner of the SBA with over 240 chapters around the country and 3 right here in Maine. And we've helped over 20 or 11 million entrepreneurs since 1964. And we hope to see you again at one of our future events. Allie, thank you very much. And our Kennebec Valley and Lewiston Auburn Metro Chambers, thank you very much for helping us put this workshop on. And we hope you have a good day, and we'll see you at some other webinars.
Thank you. Thank you all for coming. It was a real pleasure to do this webinar again. So thank you. Thank you to the Chambers and to SCORE for having me, and to everybody who came and participated.
And you didn't have anybody walking back of you or anything that I saw. Everything looked very good.
Someone just cut through, but at least you didn't see him. So there's that.
Looking forward to see your new office. I think it'll be really great.
I can't wait. It's going to have a door and everything.
Great. Okay. Thank you very much, Allie. Okay.
Thanks,
Hope
John.
the rest of you have a nice afternoon.
Take care.